Hello, and welcome to the Evolved Man's Masterclass. Today, I'm really excited to have a special guest with me, Alison Lessard. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Alison, you are a relationship and sexuality expert. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. I'm very
Yeah.
excited. It's a hot
Yeah, me
topic.
too. Yes, it is. Will forever be a hot topic.
So we're going to have some fun. So first, tell us a little bit more about your bio, what you do, and the audience get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So my background actually is in sales and marketing in New York City. And the way that I ended up in healing arts is, it was just destiny. I decided to leave the corporate world of like luxury hotels and sales back in 2011, and I moved to Miami Beach on a whim, sort of. I was like, I feel like I need to leave New York. I mean, it truly was like, people were like, what are you doing? But it felt right, and I wanted to change, and I noticed that a lot of people in the hotel were coming asking for advice on wellness, on their relationships, and I started thinking to myself, I'm in the wrong profession. My office was like the Zen den, so everybody came to me for advice. So anyway, I decided to leave corporate. And so I moved to Miami and I started, exploring the healing arts, and I worked within like a spa hotel sort of, facility. And from there on, it just evolved. So I ended up getting a background in body work, massage therapy, energy healing, NLP. Like I just kept exploring and exploring for about 5 years, and I gathered a lot of resources, and where I ended up was basically where I started, which was relationships and sex, because that's what people wanted to know from me personally, and that's what I enjoyed talking about. So, with the healing arts background, it gave me a different way to address people's issues and not like a traditional therapy, because that never really interested me. I was always more interested in the metaphysical anyway, having, intuitive gifts when I was a child, and not really knowing what to do with those. As I grew older and they started to get stronger, I realized I should probably be using that. So connecting the two and just making it less taboo to work with our energy and relationships and sex, and combine all three and make this something that's normal, because I believe that it is 100% connected. So I just want to bridge that gap from kind of old school to, we're evolving. So to change the conversation.
Totally agree. I am getting kind of more into the energy work. Can you explain a little bit about what energy work is? Because I think it can sound very out there, but I think all of us can kind of feel our energy, can feel when it's constricted and can feel when it's open. But can you explain a little bit more about how energy works and how a healer works in that realm?
Sure. So we are the physical body, and then we have energy. We're made of energy, but we have energy all around us. So if you were to draw a picture, we could actually draw like little layers around our body, like little eggs, right? So there's one layer, and then a second layer, and a third layer, and we have these different energy bodies. So a test that I like to do with people is just to rub their hands together, and then once they're kind of hot and you've got a little friction there, you hold them close to one another, and you can actually start to feel your energy. It's just like a quick way to understand like how easily it is, that we can create that energy and feel it, and you don't have to do that. But the essential component is that energy is all around us. So we have different layers of our bodies, emotional, mental, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you could look at it almost like auras and like these egg shapes around our body that extend outward. That's called the aura, right? So the aura can be contracted, as you said, if somebody's in a state of pain, or if they're feeling depressed, or if they're sad. And if you're feeling really excited or happy, your aura expands, and it can expand, they say, out to, I believe, 9 feet. So that's the feeling of when you walk into a room and somebody catches your, like energetically, you just turn. That's usually somebody with a really expansive aura. That's somebody with a big energy field, because you feel them come, or you notice them without even needing to see them. So you feel them. So this is how the energy body works. So when you're working with somebody's energy, you don't have to physically be present, because we're like quantum beings. We don't have to be with a person to feel them. Energy travels, right? So I can work with you this way, or I could work with a person on the telephone, or I personally, if you're doing energy work, I enjoy working with someone hands-on, but it's not necessary. And so essentially, if you imagine that you're standing on the earth and you can, bring energy up through your feet, and imagine the energy sort of traveling up your legs and out through your hands. That's one way that you can, sort of give energy or receive it. Or you can imagine it coming kind of through the crown of your head and then coming out through your hands that way. So as a healer, that's how I work with people. One thing that people don't want to do is use their own energy. So if you're a beginner, if you're like just stepping into the healing, what I used to do is not really understand how to re-energize myself with source energy, like the energy around us. So I felt drained, right? So one thing to know when you're dealing with energy is that it's really important to understand your own energy field and to be doing things that are, grounding, as I'm sure you've heard, and is like a buzzword, but it's true. Feeling yourself taking the energy either from the earth or from, source, and not draining your own batteries. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes total sense. And it's one of those things that, used to be very esoteric to me, but now I'm getting a little bit more into it and realizing the power it has of tapping into that, and realizing the more work I need to do on myself as part of my personal evolution. So fascinated with it right now, even though it's still a little hard for me to wrap my head around. I can feel it to a certain degree, and can feel that working with that more is going to give me progress.
Yeah, like anybody can work with energy. This is not something that's, for a select group of people or for like a small audience. This is universal. It's just like you said, the willingness to be curious, to have an open mind. And a book that I recommend to a lot of people that's been around for a long time is by Carolyn Mace. And she's really well respected in the healing arts field with Hay House, etc. And she wrote a book a long time ago called Anatomy of the Spirit. Okay. So this is a book that, and you probably would enjoy that book. And she essentially was a journalist that ended up out of the blue sort of getting impressions of people's illnesses. So she started working with a doctor to kind of prove what she was picking up, and she was getting the impressions of where the disease was, where the ailment was, etc., and what organs it was linked to. And she really is the person that linked, or I would say she's one of the most well-respected people that have linked the physical body and what's going on in the physical body with the energy bodies, right, and the emotional bodies. So people that are having throat issues, okay, what's really going on there, or etc. Reproductive issues, okay, where are you holding shame, or where is there pain from the past, things like that.
Right.
That's a great book for someone who's more, linear thinking, because she came from that world. She had no healing background. This was something that sort of happened with her, and she decided to explore it, and now that's her full-time gig.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll get a link to that in the notes for this episode.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to transition from energy into relationships. They're obviously related, no pun intended. So let's talk a little bit about what type of issues people have when they come to you. What are the normal kind of couple relationship things, and what are people's blocks around sexuality and sex?
Well, I think that the difference with me as opposed to somebody else that works in relationships is that I work also in spirituality and, with energy and with, soul connections. And if we're talking even about people that we've known from past lives that we're coming back to, this is my world. So for me, I'm talking to people that have, I'm not limited to that, but the people that are finding me are the people that are already curious about that and are exploring that and are feeling those things and are maybe not 100% sure what they're picking up on, or why do I feel like I know this person for my entire life, or why can't I let go of this person even though it's so toxic and unhealthy. I deal with a lot of those people, that think this is my soulmate, I'm supposed to be with this person for life, but it's totally dysfunctional. And really what I pick up on is the pattern or the lesson or the connection there that, that's intended to be healed. Because most times when the people come to me, what ends up happening is that once they are aware of that issue within themselves and they're able to kind of integrate that lesson, the person might fall out of their experience, and then sort of the work is done. Not always, but that happens a lot. Or, with people that are coming that are genuinely like, yes, I want to be with this person, this is my person. With them, I feel like the biggest blocks are communication styles. Like men and women definitely are different. So they are just different. So my biggest piece of advice, for the women that I'm working with, get out of here. And it's like mystified, like what, So anyway, I tell my female clients a lot, your man is not your girlfriend. So if you're expecting him to relate to you in that way, if you're talking to him in that way when you're upset, it's like a totally different style. And I feel that with the male clients, and I do have a lot of male clients, the men that come to me honestly want to be heard without being judged. I feel like the biggest thing is like they want to just talk about what's going on without someone jumping on them, trying to fix it, getting upset with them, blaming them, and then, oh, now you're upsetting me, and oh, this is your fault. Like, I feel like men are just silenced a lot, and I'm not blaming women. This is like a universal, everybody needs to be more aware, I feel, on whatever side of the spectrum. But with the men, what I feel is they're looking for a space that's safe with somebody that they can relate to who isn't like mothering them, but they are looking for that kind of feminine space to talk. Which is why so many men go to girlfriends, not their partner, but like female friends to ask for advice, because it's non-threatening. It's getting a female perspective without it being, the intimacy factor involved. And that to me is sad, because I feel like men should be able to talk to their partners.
What type of work do you do in those instances to try and create that space?
What I work with mostly, because I am in the metaphysical realm, so what I do with people is a combination of energy work. So I use, the Akashic records, which is honestly just a way to access, I feel, deeper information. It's like a technique. Like you open up the space with the intention to bring through for that person whatever it is that they need to hear, and that might go into a past life, or into connections with people in this life, or whatever the case is. It's really working with their energy field. And I work with tarot cards. I work with different tools, and that's how I do it, because it allows me to access more information about the person. I don't really need the cards, but I enjoy using them because sometimes the visual is nice, especially for people that are a little skeptical. It can give them a tie between what I'm picking up, because they might think, how does she know this?
Right.
Sometimes I can say, oh, well, the card looks a little bit, I don't need that, but it's nice to have both, so that, you can give the person and create a dialogue with some visuals, but also talk about what's going on. That's honestly how I do it. And whatever needs to come up always comes up. And I just allow them to, discuss whatever it is that is going on. And like I said, I've dealt with so many different issues that from there I decide, do I want to give them some information in the session? Then sometimes I send some meditations or things to use afterwards, things that you can connect with another person without having the conversation yet. So it's like doing the preparatory work. It really is a lot of energy work, because we can do a lot there before we go back in and actually work with the person directly. Because a lot of times what's happening is the blocks are in our energy field and in our mind. And so if we can bypass the subconscious, right, and work there, not bypass the conscious mind and work in the subconscious, from there, things start to shift.
Interesting. So just to feedback what you're saying, in other words, you'll take somebody, actually taking a step back for those who are uninitiated or may not be aware of what the Akashic records are.
Uninitiated is a good word.
Let's do a quick 101 on what that means.
Sure. So they say that the Akasha is a vibration. It's like a frequency where all of our soul's memories are stored. So you can imagine it like a library, like literally a library of memories of our soul's experience. Because if people out there believe that we've had more than one life, which I do believe we've had many, many lives, obviously our soul has gone through multiple experiences as men, as women, and had all of these different experiences. So those are stored there. And if we've decided to come into this body in this life and work on something specific, oftentimes it's connected to one of those lives. So that's a very basic. So essentially it's like a frequency. It's like turning on a radio station and tuning into that station.
Okay. So now just a very nuts and bolts question. Could you tune into me now and see if I've had past lives?
Oh, I know you've had past lives.
Okay. And do most people had past lives? Yeah.
I think we all, I don't think any of us are here for the first time, unless maybe certain people are here because I believe we've had lives other places, not just on Earth. So I believe that also I just believe there's so much more than people understand. I know that. But some people haven't had many incarnations on Earth.
Okay.
Some people have been in other places, let's say. So, yeah, but I believe that everybody's had past this.
And then
I don't think it's anyone's first go around.
Okay. And then when you take it back to the setting when you're working with people, what's the kind of mix between stuff that they've dealt with from growing up versus stuff from, other lives?
I feel like most of it is dealing in the present moment, like in this life, because what happens is when the person calls me, I'm already intuitively picking up information about that person. So like as soon as the person books the appointment, we're connected. And from there, sometimes I just receive information, like impressions. I'm mostly clairvoyant, so I see things either in my mind's eye or in dreams, or I'm clairaudient, so I hear messages like in my mind, or sometimes I even hear things, but mostly it's like you're talking to, it would sound almost like your voice, but you're receiving that information. And doing this as a job, I know now when it's an intuitive message and when it's me. So there is a different feeling there. But essentially, if you were to book an appointment, I would start to pick up feelings about you, impressions, maybe visuals about your past, stuff about your parents, things like this. So typically by the time the person's called me, I'm already tuned in. And so from there, just because I'm an intuitive and that's what I do, I would start to feel into, okay, what's going on with this person right now? What are they feeling? And often I give feedback first, and then I let the person tell me, just to give them my impression without any bias, without any information really. And then I let them tell me what's going on. And from there, it is like talk therapy in a sense. But like I said, sometimes I use some additional tools to give them more information.
And then for a guy who all of this may seem totally out there.
Yes, and I'm sure for some it is.
Would you recommend that they come to you, or do you think they have to have that curiosity and the attractiveness to this realm that may seem totally foreign to them?
I think it requires a bit of an open mind. If it's totally foreign and it's something that somebody's never, ever even been open to before, I would definitely say come with a curiosity, but they don't have to have any knowledge of any of it, to be honest. I don't feel. Because I've worked with men that are just like, oh, that's interesting. That could be true. Okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. And honestly, they benefit from just talking and having somebody hear them and give them some honest, feedback and feedback that can help them and some tools that can help them. So I would just say open mind. If somebody's going to come and be like, I'm a skeptic, prove it to me, that's not coming with an open energy field. So right there, it's not that I can't do it, but that's not as enjoyable or as easy. It's easier when somebody comes with a curiosity and is open, because then I can read them easier. And then we're going to get somewhere, as opposed to like, oh, prove that you're psychic, or, I don't care about that. I'm like, no, go elsewhere.
I'm not your circus monkey.
I'm not your circus monkey, right? I love helping, but yeah, I don't really attract those people though. So the people that come are open.
Cool.
Because I believe, your vibe does attract your tribe, so to speak.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So we talked about relationships, and we talked about men not feeling like they have a safe space. What are the common sexuality blocks that they have? I'm sure they're related, but we've got both relationships and sex. So
yeah,
where are the common issues there? I
feel where they're related are for men, like the men that I work with, a lot of men, their sexuality is stemming from how powerful they're feeling. And I'm using power, right? So if a man is struggling with finances, if he's struggling with his purpose, like not knowing what to do with his life, or he's confused, or he's not clear on his direction, because men are very direction oriented. They just are by nature. And this is what I tell my clients, my female clients, I say, men in our DNA, in your DNA, we're hunters. The females were gatherers. So what were we doing? We're sitting around talking, doing things together. Men were out there singularly focused, finding something and then bringing it back to you. So if a man is feeling lost, this is a number one block sexually, because from there, they're feeling not worthy, not able to provide that power, because really what women want is that masculine power, but it's been skewed. It's been skewed. If we were to go back to just the energetics of it, the men are the givers in that sense, and the women are the receivers. So this to me is the number one thing with men. I also feel, like I said, with communication styles and with how people are talking and communicating their needs, there's a huge breakdown there, because I feel that most of the men, like I said, that I'm talking to, and I'm not a woman hater, I'm a man supporter. I feel for men, because women get a lot of support because we reach out for it, because as women, it's just in our nature to want to connect and talk about things when we have issues, most women. With men, it's not. Not that you don't want to talk about it, but men are not like, oh, we want to join the group therapy group online. We want to talk about our stuff in a forum. No, men want to come in a private space and be heard, and receive some honest feedback, because the men that I work with want direction. So if they're upset, they want the woman to say, this is where I'm challenged. Can you meet me there? Go do it and come back. That's what I feel the men that I'm talking to want. They want a direction. They want like an initiative. They want to hear like, what do I have to do? Give me a task, right, and let me do it. That's just like a very basic. It is deeper than that, but I really truly feel like that's what men want. And instead, the women are spilling all their feelings for like 25, 30 minutes. And then the man is like, okay, I don't know how to fix that. I'm lost. And now I just feel overwhelmed. Now I just want to go hide in my hole.
Right.
And come back later. Like, I don't know what to do. So I feel like sexually, that is a huge issue. Because if we can't communicate, if we can't understand each other's needs and how men and women are innately different, then the struggle is real. Because people are not having sex then because they're feeling disconnected. The man's feeling frustrated because he's like, I don't know what to do here. This is like overwhelming. And the woman is like, he doesn't get me.
So if I'm trying to crystallize what you're saying a little bit, is that men should be able to have some safe space to be able to talk about what it is that is blocking them. It's not always the best idea to do it with their partner right away until they've figured out what best communication style fits them. But it can be very beneficial for men to be able to express that, even though that's not their true nature.
Yes.
I know that resonates with me. And before I started on my evolution journey, throughout my 20s, it was a kind of pattern of drinking a lot and using women. There were some fun times in there, but it wasn't, it didn't always feel good in all the right ways.
Of course. Yeah.
And I, got to a point where it felt kind of empty and hollow. And, I needed to talk to somebody, but it was just like, you don't talk to somebody, you wouldn't even want to like bring your buddy into that dark place.
Right.
So, right. The first time I asked for help, it was a psychiatrist. And after like 15 minutes, I was like, had 15 years of, pent up wanting to bare my soul. And then he's like, after 10 minutes, like, do you want a prescription? And I'm just like, no.
No, I just want to like get this shit out of me. Yeah, I understand.
So yeah, that led me, and this is for the men out there too, that led me first into therapy for a couple months, and that was helpful. And I think there's time and place for that, but then I went into coaching soon after that. And I think, speaking to what you said, that appealed to me very much in the action orientation of it, because it's like, okay, we've got a problem. Here's what we're going to do in the short term. This is where we're going, and we'll deal with the blocks on the way.
It's true. It's like I give my male clients not homework, but some tasks, like, here, do this, meditation, this guided meditation, work with that for a little while, do this, do that. They're so excited. They're like, now I know what I can do. And that makes them feel so much better from my experience. I really see them light up like, yay, I have a task. So I just think that the feeling aspect of it, because it's not as natural, and men just have not had the space to do that. And traditional therapy is just not always the route. It's not even always necessary. Sometimes it truly is just a private, safe space. Like I said, that's why men go to their female friends and say like, hey, you want to get a beer or whatever, let's talk. And then they want to get their advice. And then it's like, okay, I'm good. So I just feel so bad for men that don't have a place to be understood in any way. It makes my heart hurt. That's why I started this and really opened up the space to men and have worked with lots of them, because where do they go? I mean, where do you go? Other than a bar with a friend or whatever, or yoga class. I don't know.
I think coaching is a great avenue, and I'm a big proponent of it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it is a good question. I don't always feel like my buddies, want to talk about this stuff. I mean, I think there are some great men's groups out there, for example, like the Mankind Project,
Right.
that provide that safe space. So I think there are more of those spaces, but they're not well known everywhere. And
Right. Or maybe even well accepted. Like it's definitely becoming more normal, and it's becoming more, spoken about in mainstream, but I just think there's work to do here in terms of it being okay for men to just be like, I don't feel good today, or having a moment, or whatever the case is, and have that translate into more compassion between partners. Because I feel that the third probably biggest block for people in relationships is that first of all, they don't know what their needs are. So if you don't know what your needs are, and I don't know what my highest values are and my needs are, how the heck are you going to help meet me in the middle? Like, how are we going to meet one another's needs in a loving way if we don't know what they are? So I feel like for people, that is a huge thing to explore and figure out what is really important to me. Because most people cheat because their highest value, their highest need is not being met. Period. We go after that, whether we're conscious of it or not. So if it's not being met in the relationship, we're going to seek it elsewhere. Period. End of story. So that's a co-creation.
What are some examples of those needs that are not being met, just to make it a little bit more concrete?
So maybe one person's need is passion, but they're in a really financially stable, comfortable relationship, but there's no passion, there's no fire, there's no drive. This was for me. This was mine. I was in a really stable marriage. I'm divorced now, but very amicable. And it just wasn't working for me. Like chemistry-wise, it just wasn't there. And I recognized, I thought I could be there. I thought, such a good person, so nice, so kind. And that's all true. So good to me, so loyal, so committed. And every night I went to bed, I was like, but there's something missing. And I didn't want to admit it to myself. I was really ashamed of that. And when I finally was able to recognize that and realized if I don't deal with it, and sometimes people can address it within the relationship, and that can be, worked through and they stay together. For me, it wasn't an option. So when I was able to actually admit that to myself, that's where you come to the table and you really put your cards on the table. And this is where relationships can evolve, because I feel most people stay together way longer than the relationship is serving them, simply because they either don't want to explore what their needs are, they're afraid to because they're in codependent relationships where they need each other for whatever reason, or they're just afraid. So, it was a combination for me. But once I dealt with that and left that marriage, then I was able to attract a partner that met that need. And I was like, what a difference. Because when that highest need is being met, you're not out there looking around like, why does something feel like it's missing? This is what I feel a lot of people are going through. They're just not aware of it.
So if you were to assign men homework about how to figure out what their needs are and be able to verbalize it, how would you approach that?
Well, there is a book that I read, and the book may not completely resonate, but there was an exercise in the book that I thought was so good. It was called The Heart of Love. I'm trying to look for the book now, but it's by Peter, I hope it is, or is it John DeMartini? I think it's John DeMartini. So like I said, he may not resonate with everyone, but he had this breakdown in the book of all of these different values. So around family, around money, around health, around sex, or whatever. And he was able to really break it down very linear, like numbers from 1 to 10. How do you feel about this? From 1 to 10. So I took that exercise, credited him, and give it to people often, my clients, because that is an excellent exercise just to figure out. I didn't even know, like, what are my highest values? So he has it for free on his website. I can give you guys I can give you a link to that as well, just for curiosity's sake, because it's a good resource already put together.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that the more, like you said, the more awareness that we have around what we need, A, and then B, how to communicate that, that'll lead to better relationships and sex, as you said. So there's no... Sex
is, the offspring of all of this. Sex is like when you're feeling connected emotionally, connected mentally, connected spiritually, that's when you have amazing sex. So people think I have to be technically good at sex, but it is not the technical. That's maybe part of it, and that might make it even better. I might take it to another level. But honestly, the best sex you're having is when you're connected heart to heart and when you're connected mentally and like in all these areas. That's the best sex.
All right. So we're not going to get the top 10 tips and techniques today, huh?
Later. That's the advanced course once we deal with all the stuff in the middle.
All right. All right. You gotta get through the 101.
You got to get through the communication and this is what relationships are. Relationships are relating to one another. We forget.
All right. Great. Is there anything that we haven't gone over today that you think's important for an evolved man today to be able to embrace, to step into his own power and his own kind of manhood?
To me, the biggest thing right now for men is to really forgive themselves for wherever they feel like they're not conscious or evolved, because I feel that in general, that men just haven't had as much support and things are changing so much now. So I feel like for men out there, really all women want is for men to be open and willing to become more aware. It's really where it goes from there, great. However far they go along their path and whatever else they discover, that's great. But the willingness to just say, you know what, I'm sorry for anything that I did when I wasn't as conscious and I wasn't as clear about who I was. I'm sorry. And also really truly forgiving themselves, because I feel like it's one thing to kind of collectively feel like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it that way. Because I feel like most men, if you ask them, that's true. I would say that for myself. So for men, I feel like it's the same. Like you said, in my 20s, I'm out there getting wasted and using women. Did you mean to do that? Were you malicious? No, I don't believe so. But, we do the best that we know how in any given moment. So I feel like for men, it's just a collective, yes, I'm sorry, but also like I accept that that I was doing the best that I knew how, but I can do better. Like I can do more now. I can explore more. I can become more aware of who I really am and my stuff and what's buried there. And just accept our wholeness, because that's I feel where all that shame comes from. Shame is a big one. That's like a big underlying wound, that's affecting a lot of men right now. People, humanity, but for men, I feel like that's a huge one.
Yep, and I think to that end, and this is definitely the case with me, before you're able to talk to somebody, all of that just stays bottled up. But shining the light on those shadows that you think are unshareable.
Accessible, yeah. Like,
really,
no one will love me. I won't be embraced. I'm not worthy. Why should I even bother? I'm wounded. I'm old news. I'm whatever.
Right.
None of that is true. So I think that's the piece where if I could really embrace, like, it's okay that I feel like I didn't do it right, or I feel like I wasn't good enough then. Now is the moment. Like, it can always be shifted. There's always an opportunity to do something differently.
Yeah, and I think until you let go of that old stuff, it is hard to evolve. So, encourage the guys to talk. It helps, man.
It helps. I mean, listen, baby steps. It's like one step at a time. We'll get somewhere. I feel like we'll leave the world better than we found it. And I see so many men now talking about this publicly. So to me, that is super encouraging. Last year I started a men's series and I was just interviewing men that were awakening. Like I said, I should talk to men, because I knew so many amazing men that were doing all of this work already, and probably practitioners. Most of them were already doing it professionally, but not all. So just guys that I'd worked with as clients, and I was like, listen, let's do an interview series and we'll talk about your experience, period. And that was really healing for them. And you should have seen the feedback of even women like, we want more, because they just want to know that this is happening, because it is kind of happening behind the scenes. So that's okay too. It just said, the more that we do it and the more that we create these dialogues and we realize that it's not as scary or as embarrassing as people might think, and that it's super healing, I feel like that's going to help so much on every level.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think it's a great place to land the plane. So you've got a free gift that you're offering the audience. So tell us a little bit about that.
I have a free meditation that I offer to people that's opening them up to greater love. So that is free on my website. They can just click, on the link and it'll automatically pop up. So they can enter their little email and get that. That's an excerpt from my relationship course, which consists of like workbook, some meditations, and some other things. So that's a piece of that.
Awesome. Great. And I'll have that link in the notes as well.
Yeah.
Alison, thank you so much for your time today and your knowledge and sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.